I'm 94 years old, and I'm about to confess something that will make you uncomfortable. I carried racism in my heart for 76 years. But here's the twist. I'm black, and the racism I carried was against my own people, against myself. I spent most of my life running from my blackness, ashamed of where I came from, discriminating against other black people, trying desperately to be accepted by white society. And the worst part is, I thought I was smart for doing it. I grew up in Alabama in the 1930s. My family was light-skinned. That lighter skin gave me advantages other black folks didn't have. I could get jobs other black men couldn't. And somewhere along the way, I started believing I was different, better, not like those other black people. For most of my life, if you'd asked me, I would have said I wasn't racist. How could I be? I'm black. But racism isn't just what white people do to us. It's also what we do to ourselves and each other. And I did it for 76 years without ever calling it what it was. At 82, something happened that shattered everything. My grandson came to visit. He had locks, beautiful, long locks, natural hair, and he was wearing a dashiki and talking about black liberation. And my first reaction wasn't pride, it was embarrassment, it was anger. I told him he looked like a thug, that he needed to cut his hair if he wanted to be taken seriously. And he looked at me with such disappointment and said, "Grandpa, you sound just like them." Those words hit me like a physical blow. Just like them. White racists who judge black people by their hair, their clothes, their culture, and I realized he was right. I had spent 76 years trying to distance myself from blackness, and in doing so, I had become complicit in my own oppression. I had carried water for white supremacy. I couldn't sleep for days. I kept replaying moments from my life, and what I saw made me sick. 76 years of self-hatred. 76 years of discrimination against my own community. 76 years of trying to prove I was different, better, more acceptable than those other black people. When I was 25, I got a job at a bank. First black employee they'd ever hired. I was so proud. But there was another black man who applied after me. Darker skin than mine, thicker accent. He grew up poor in the rural South. When my white boss said he wasn't the right fit, I said nothing. I smiled and nodded. Because I didn't want them to think I was like him. That man's name was James. I saw him years later working as a janitor. He could have had a career, but I stayed silent to protect my own position. When I was 31, I got married to a light-skinned woman whose family had money. We moved to a neighborhood that was mostly white, with just a few black families, all of them professional, educated, respectable. And when darker-skinned black families tried to move in, when working-class black families looked at houses on our street, I felt uncomfortable. I worried they would bring property values down. I worried what the white neighbors would think. I actually joined a neighborhood association that found quiet ways to discourage certain families from buying homes. We talked about property standards and neighborhood character, but we all knew what it meant. A black man helping to keep other black people out. My children grew up in that neighborhood, and I policed everything about them. Their hair had to be straightened, controlled, never too nappy. Their clothes had to be proper, conservative. Their music had to be classical or jazz, the respectable black music white people liked. Never hip-hop, never anything too black. Their friends had to be the right kind of black kids, light-skinned, middle-class, well-spoken, or better yet, white friends. When my daughter was 16, she came home with a boy. He was dark-skinned, from the other side of town, spoke in dialect, wore his pants low, and I lost my mind. I told her she couldn't see him, that he was trouble. I didn't even know him. I judged him entirely on how he looked, how he spoke, where he came from. My daughter cried and asked me why I hated my own people. That boy's name was Marcus. Years later, my daughter told me he became a teacher, got his master's degree, mentors kids in underserved communities. He was a good person who I judged and rejected based on colorist, classist prejudice. Here's what nobody tells you about growing up black in a racist society. Sometimes the racism gets inside you. You start seeing yourself through white eyes. You start believing the lies they tell about your own people. You start thinking, if you just work hard enough, speak properly enough, dress respectably enough, distance yourself from those other black people, then maybe you'll be accepted. Maybe you'll be safe. But it's a lie. I worked in corporate America for 40 years, always the only black person in the room, or one of maybe 2 or 3. And when white colleagues made racist jokes, I laughed. When they talked about those people in the inner cities, I agreed. When they said racist things about black culture, I stayed silent, or worse, I joined in, because I wanted them to know I wasn't like those other black people. I was one of the good ones. Do you know what one of the good ones means? It means you've agreed to throw your own people under the bus in exchange for conditional acceptance from white people. It means you've accepted the premise that most black people are bad, and you're the exception. It means you've internalized white supremacy so deeply that you've become its instrument. I had a cousin, darker skinned than me, grew up poorer than me, got caught up in some trouble as a young man. Nothing violent, just survival in a system designed to trap black men, and I cut him off. Wouldn't let my kids around him because I was afraid his blackness would contaminate my carefully constructed respectability. He died 10 years ago. Never got the chance to tell him I was sorry. After my grandson called me out, I started reading, really reading, books about internalized racism, colorism, respectability politics, James Baldwin, Bell Hooks, Malcolm X. And I realized every advantage I thought I had was built on betraying my own community. My lighter skin that opened doors came from rape and exploitation. The acceptance I got from white people was conditional, based on me performing a certain kind of blackness they found palatable. The distances I created between myself and other black people didn't protect me. It just isolated me. The most painful realization was this: I didn't just hurt other black people, I hurt my own children. I taught them to be ashamed of their blackness. I taught them that acceptance from white people was more valuable than connection with their own community. I passed on the poison that had infected me. My daughter didn't speak to me for 2 years after I rejected Marcus. When we finally reconciled, she told me she'd spent her 20s in therapy trying to undo the self-hatred I'd instilled in her, trying to learn to love her blackness, her hair, her culture, her people, the things I'd taught her to hide or be ashamed of. My son married a white woman, and I was happy about it, not because she was a good person, though she was, but because she was white, because I thought it meant he'd made it, that his children would be lighter, that they'd have an easier time. How sick is that? to celebrate my bloodline getting lighter, as if that's progress. Here's what I learned too late. The racism in America wasn't just maintained by white people actively oppressing us. It was also maintained by black people like me who internalized those racist beliefs, who policed our own communities, who punished blackness in ourselves and each other, who chose proximity to whiteness over solidarity with blackness. We did their work for them. My grandson's words broke something open in me. These last 12 years, I've been trying to do better. I've reconnected with family I'd cut off, apologized to people I'd hurt or judged or rejected. I've supported black-owned businesses, black organizations, black culture that I'd turned my back on. I've had painful conversations with my children about the damage I did. But I can't undo 76 years. I can't give back to the people whose opportunities I helped deny. I can't restore relationships I destroyed. I can't erase the self-hatred I modeled for my children. The damage is done, and I have to die knowing I was part of the problem. If you're black and you've ever felt uncomfortable around other black people who are too black, too urban, too dark, too loud, if you've ever straightened your hair or changed your speech to be more palatable to white people, if you've ever felt relief that your skin is lighter, if you've ever judged other black people for not being respectable enough, that's internalized racism. I carried it for 76 years. Maybe you're carrying it now. I'm 94 years old. I don't have much time left. And I can't fix what I've done, but maybe my confession can help you avoid my mistakes. Don't spend your life running from your blackness. Don't try to distance yourself from your people. Don't believe the lie that some black people are better than others based on skin tone or class or respectability. Don't do the work of white supremacy by policing and judging your own community. Don't choose conditional acceptance from white people over solidarity with black people. Being black in America is hard enough without us turning on each other, without us internalizing the hatred and applying it to ourselves. We need each other. We need solidarity. We need to stop dividing ourselves into good blacks and bad blacks, respectable blacks and embarrassing blacks, light-skinned and dark-skinned. That division serves white supremacy. I wasted 76 years being ashamed of my blackness, discriminating against my own people, trying to be acceptable to people who would never fully accept me anyway. These last 12 years, I've finally learned to love my blackness, my people, my culture, and I'm happier now at 94 with a few years left than I was at 30 when I thought I had made it. If I could go back and talk to my 30-year-old self, here's what I would say. Stop trying to be the exception. Stop believing you're better than other black people. Stop performing respectability for white acceptance. Start building solidarity with your community. Start challenging your own internalized racism. Start loving your blackness fully and unapologetically. Start seeing other black people through eyes of compassion instead of judgment. Start understanding that your liberation is tied up with theirs. And start now. I'm 94. I probably have months, maybe a year if I'm lucky. I can't undo 76 years of betrayal. But maybe my confession means something. Maybe it helps one person recognize internalized racism in themselves. Maybe it helps one person choose solidarity over respectability. Maybe it helps one person stop doing the work of white supremacy. Don't carry the poison I carried. Don't betray your people the way I did. Don't waste your life running from yourself. Choose differently than I did. Please choose differently.